don't be an instant gratification person. Be a delayed gratification person, because that excitement, it's like, oh, I'm going to crush this workout. And then it's like, oh, you go on vacation. You're like, I'm excited to be on vacation and drink. And then you go back and that first workout is just like, why? I've literally never worked out a day in my life. So it's keep everything kind of moving and just be consistent.
Yeah. And welcome back, everyone, to the Real Training, Better Living podcast. I'm your host, Tommy. I got my co-host, Chris. And today we're going to discuss 6 pillars of health, Chris. And the reason why I wanted us to unpack this is because this is one of the newer concepts to District H. It's been I would say, in the back of my mind for the last 5 or 6 years. And again, going back to, I think it was episode 1 or 2. You know, you and I are always thinking about, is there a better way to create results for clients? And it's funny how like you just get a lot of reps in this industry where you're just, why didn't that work? And I know I'd made the joke of, why didn't this squat progression change your life and stuff like that.
Yes.
So it's funny how just people, human beings, we got a lot going on, especially our population of people that you and I take care of on a day-to-day basis. It's like busy professionals with families, like very successful careers. There's just a lot going on, right? So most of the time when people are coming in, you know, I think what you and I usually think about is it's not necessarily about how strong can I get you or how much capacity can we build. It's like, how does this enhance your overall life? Like that's kind of the bigger picture. So the 6 pillars of health, like for me, this was a framework that I had developed over the last like 2 or 3 years. And again, it just came from this idea of like lessons learned from not being able to take care of clients. And when it didn't work out, me just constantly searching for information of like, is there a better way to help these people? So we'll go through the 6 pillars. Chris, I'm going to rely heavily on you just to like, hey, yeah, I got some great examples of like where we can get more personalized with this kind of stuff. So first pillar I really want to unpack with you is the easy one, man. It's movement. It's funny because when I talk about movement or fitness or exercise, like I would say it's probably about 10% of someone's entire, like, this is the real issue. Like, it's like, yeah, we got to get you moving, but like, it's usually not the biggest problem. But what it is it's typically the biggest, like, if you were to think of a machine, it's the biggest cog in the wheel that gets people like thinking about health. It's easy to just strap a pair of shoes on and go like, oh, I'm going to go work out or go run or whatever. It's a lot harder to be like, I'm going to start eating a head of broccoli every day, right? It's just not going to happen. So movement, intentional movement prescription. So in District H, what we typically do is like, hey, when you come to us, best use of using our time is let's get you stronger and let's do some more intense conditioning pieces in terms of like, you know, endurance, group, whatever, right? But movement doesn't necessarily have to always be just like, hey, let's lift a lot of weights and let's do this high intensity stuff. Like when you think of movement, what comes to mind in terms of what people could do just to like start moving more in general?
Yeah. So we all have our biases, but what I like to do is think of these little things called movement snacks, where it's just like do 12 Cossack squats. I love Cossack squats. It just opens the hips up. It's a ton of range of motion. Within 12 to 16 reps, you can increase your range of motion hitting the bottom of that rep. And it takes no time at all. It's literally a minute of your day. And you throw those in like a couple times, like throughout your day. That's those little movement snacks. And it just makes life so much better. I think my hips immediately stop bothering me.
And why do you think like something as simple as like a movement snack, what is it about? Because I feel like I agree with you. And I think a lot of people think it has to be this like, I'm going to start moving. I got to jump into the deep end. We got to fully commit. I'm going to buy the $5,000 road bike and I'm going to get all the gear and I'm going to get all the new no-bull shoes and all that stuff. Like what is it about just let's start with a walk or let's start with Cossack squats? Like why do people skip that step, you think?
Well, I think that, and I can't remember if it's one of the 6 pillars, but kind of a framework to work within is just the all or nothing mentality.
Yeah.
People are like, if I'm going to go work out, it has to be a full like hour and a half where I do my warm up and I do my strength and I do like my bicep curls or my pull-ups or accessory movements and all that, or I have to do a Metcon. And in podcast 1 or 2, we were talking about like, oh, we do a traditional CrossFit thing where it's a strength focus followed by a Metcon, and you don't need to do that. You and I talked briefly at some point where with me being a new dad, I'm like, let's just get a quick whatever workout in. And you could do like within 24 minutes, you do 2 supersets or 2 mega sets. And you try to do like an AMRAP of like a 12-minute mega set followed by a 12-minute mega set, and then you brought it all together, condensed it down. It doesn't have to be this protracted thing. Just like get the work done, move on with your day.
And that's not to say, you guys, like, we don't want you to like be excited and go like I want to ride that momentum as much as I can. But what you and I have noticed is that excitement, that let's go, like that will start to fade over time. And so what tends to happen with people is they get super excited about something, and then they kind of like, okay. And then like life gets in the way. We have that one vacation, we get sick, and all of a sudden we just die. And then we go through this yo-yo effect of excitement falling off. And so if you were to give people just advice, like, look, I want you to be excited. I want you to ride that momentum of going all in. But if you could balance that out with one or two things in regards to movement practice, what would be some of the advice you'd give them?
Maybe not the advice people want to hear, but don't be an instant gratification person. Be a delayed gratification person, because that excitement, it's like, oh, I'm going to crush this workout. And then it's like, oh, you go on vacation. You're like, I'm excited to be on vacation and drink. And then you go back and that first workout is just like, why? I've literally never worked out a day in my life. So it's keep everything kind of moving and just be consistent.
Yeah. Consistency is key, you guys. Like, it's not rocket science what we do. What I always joke about is like the hardest part about what we do is help clients get out of their own way. Because if I could just have you move with intention, and what I mean by that is like just anything beyond like twitching and fidgeting, like even if it's going for a walk, doing yoga, picking up dance, coming and working out with us, training for whatever it is, right? It's just like, just move with intention, have fun with it. I would build on your like consistency, and also say like, just find something like you look forward to doing. It doesn't have to, if it's a burden to be like, I don't want to go work out with these guys today, like you're just making it harder on yourself to go work out.
Yeah.
So it's, as much as I would love to have your business, it doesn't have to be with me, obviously. Go do something. Half my one-on-one clients end up doing like spin or Pilates or something to complement what we do. It's like
you said, you have to enjoy what you're doing. And it's like, if you're just bashing your head into that wall of like strength training, and I've done that before, where it's like, I'm going to, squat twice a week or 3 times a week, or squat every day or bench every day. It's like, there's going to be a point of diminishing return where you're just like, I don't like what I'm doing anymore. My joints hurt. I'm just exhausted.
Yeah.
And I was talking with someone recently where it was like, it was based around running, and Katie Howe, excellent running coach. My hips, I feel like, were never as sore in the military from running as it was with Katie's. And I was like, I don't know if I'll ever recover again, but I loved what I was doing, even though it was just hard, and I was fairly consistent with it. So it's a battle. It's just a battle of balance.
100%. And so guys, like, movement's usually the biggest cog in the wheel. If I can get you moving, other things tend to start clicking down the line, right? So the next big one that I usually talk about, it's super popular in our gym, is the nourishment or nutrition side of thing. And I don't like using the word nutrition because it sounds so clinical. It's more just like, how do you give your body what it needs to get the output that you're looking for? That could just be like, how to give yourself energy just to feel good throughout the day. It doesn't even have to be like weight loss or muscle building. It could just be like, how about we just eat enough food? Which you'd be surprised how many people don't eat.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not surprised.
No, I mean, I was firmly in the camp of like underfed. And one of my favorite things to tell people when I'm working with them in nutrition, or they ask me nutrition questions, is that when I was in the military, I had no idea how to fuel myself. Got out of the military, still didn't realize how to nourish myself. And it just like, I get to a point where I finally started eating more calories, and I was like, oh, I've been underfed for like the last 7 years of my life. And that's why I've been so angry.
Yeah.
Cause I literally needed a Snickers or like 7.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so like members, so, I think a lot of people come into our gym saying like, if I just hit these workouts super hard, one day I'm going to look like Jerry. Like Jerry's our token like model inside the gym. Yeah. Him and Bryce.
Yeah. Just carved from wood.
Yeah. Carved from wood. Marble. But nutrition is really what drives, I would say, like physical adaptations in the body, right? So most people are thinking like, if I just work out more, chances are I'm going to be looking a certain way. And it's like, no, guys, like if you have a certain, most people want to look good, feel good. So if there's an aesthetic goal that you have, nutrition is where you need to spend most of your energy alongside a really good movement practice, right? Like I don't even have to work with anybody inside the gym in terms of movement. And if we just talked about food and I have them walk, they're going to have pretty good results if we just control the food side of the equation. Where do you think things go wrong with nutrition? Nutrition's a tricky one because people are so tribal about it, right? They're like, I'm in the carnivore diet or keto. This is the only way to do things. This meta-analysis said this. Like, let's talk to Lane Norton and see what what research has come out lately. Like, Why do you think it's so
Oh,
complicated? Why do you think people
gosh.
complicate
I
it?
mean, we could literally turn this into a 3-hour
Yeah, we
podcast of
could, yeah.
nutrition because it is just an anomaly. Uh, and why I say it's an anomaly is like I have an in-body scan from October of 2023 to February of 2024,
Yeah.
where I was I was only doing strength training. I was working outside, like chopping up wood and clearing land. I was probably drinking the most alcohol I had, but not in like I'm blackout drunk, but just like having a drink probably like every night or a couple drinks every night because
Sure.
Alyssa and I were just having a great time. And I increased my muscle mass by like 5 pounds and cut like 4% body fat. I was like, everything I know about nutrition's a lie, and I don't know if I believe what I tell people anymore. And it is so tribal, so like that's a major problem. But everybody's so different, and I'm a big anecdotal person, and I know it's not evidence. Going back to Layne Norton, I think he's a very intelligent guy.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think anecdotal evidence is very important because if you ignore that, you ignore all that person's genetics and also just kind of one of the other pillars of health is stress, which we'll get to here soon. But if I was probably the happiest I've ever been in that several month time frame, and I'm pretty happy now. And if you get rid of stress and your stress is very low or tapered back, or you know how to manage your stress, I think you're going to get those recovery benefits that just working out all the time, going off of what you mentioned earlier. You can't like body composition with a hammer. You have to scalpel it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say it. So like the anecdotal part of what you said, it does speak to genetics. Like people are genetically different. Like you and I, we grew up, our lineage comes from a certain part of the world, and we have a lot of diverse members who come from, we're talking thousands of years of like just mother nature taking place. Right. So like you may respond better to a high fat diet or a low carb diet or more protein or certain types of protein. Right. And I mean, we work with a lot of vegetarian vegan clients who do great. I don't do well on that diet. Right. So that nuance is definitely important. I think also too, like it's easier to try to major in the minors, like you want to like obsess over the smaller details to distract yourself from just the simple things of like, no, just do the work.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you're 100% right. And something that I think about a lot with my precision nutrition certification is the big rock mentality. It's like, what are big rocks? And it's going to be the 6 pillars of health. It's like 6 big rocks in a jar. And then after that, it's like intermittent fasting, which is literally sand. It's filler. Like it means nothing.
Right.
And for me, intermittent fasting just doesn't work, especially when I'm training hard because I can't consume enough calories to meet my energy demands.
And you feel terrible doing
and I feel
your
terrible.
Workouts, right? Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm mad for no reason outside of like, oh, I'm doing this arbitrary fasting to maybe see some percentage increase in performance.
Yeah, that's right. And so like, let's talk about the big rocks of successful nutrition. So I think like what I tell everybody, it goes back to just basic habits. You'd be surprised how if you just like, everyone wants to jump to the sexy thing of like, I want to count everything. If I sniffed it, I'm going to log it, right? Whereas it's like, how about we just start with, let's take a look at what you're currently doing and what's the biggest, lowest hanging fruit that we can address that's going to drive the biggest adaptation. That's like minimal effort to implement, right? Yeah. Like some of the stuff is more just like, hey, how about instead of like when we were talking about John Alexander, it's like, hey, instead of grabbing a Coke or Diet Dr. Pepper or whatever his like vice was, I'm like, hey, every time you go in, I'm going to try and take you down from 6 a day down to 3. Let's just see if we can cut it in half. I'm not asking you to like weigh and measure food. I'm just saying, hey, how do I just nudge you in the right direction? So it's easily implementable for you. And we had a lot of success because he was just like, this feels effortless. Mm-hmm. I'm bringing awareness around what are the biggest drivers of me being unhealthy, like eating out, junk food, like not getting enough sleep. We'll get to sleep in a sec. But on the nourishment side, nutrition side, it's like, I found over the years that yes, there is a place for like counting macros and calories, but for most people, it's just like, it's these small little tweaks to what you're already doing. Instead of grabbing the hot pocket, let's grab like, like a really healthy, like egg and like turkey bacon, something or other that's high in protein, just simple,
I mean, those are great suggestions. And kind of going off that example, it's like Alyssa and I will be making dinner, and sometimes we're just like exhausted because we're getting up at 3, the baby, etc. And we're just like, we don't want to like pull steak out of the fridge and like start doing the entire process of that. And quesadillas, it's like feels like it's almost like kid food, but it's like it's a tortilla and I put steak in it and I made some guac and it's like that's a whole food meal right there.
Done.
And it feels like it's cheating because it's so simple, but it's really not. And it's like it's delicious and you're gonna get enough calories from it. Whole food again. So keep it simple. Just do those small tweaks of like cut your soda in half. It's so much simpler than people want it to be, and we don't need to count calories to like make meaningful impact.
At least not initially, right?
Exactly.
Like if I'm trying to take you from like, hey, I need to lose 30 pounds to like just health, you'd be surprised how if we just clean up a lot of small things and add in intentional movement, all of a sudden we're like, hey, like we're in a deficit. Introduce more vegetables into the equation, like have a palm full of protein with each meal. Like these very simple things that people can implement, you can see significant results and you're more likely to be able to maintain that longer period of time because it's just less stressful on your mind. You don't have to think about it. It's second nature. I don't know. Is there anything else I was missing that you wanted to plug in?
No, I think you ended it on a really good note because it just has to be second nature. It has to be a habit. It has to be ingrained in you. And if you make it like a task that has to be a check in the box and you're being super granular, it's just not easy, especially in a busy life to do.
Yes. Yeah. The clients I've worked with. So with that, you guys like start with habits. From there, you can build on understanding portions a little bit better, hand method, play method. And then from there, we can get into counting calories and macros. And there's specific reasons why you want to pull that tool out. If you're already beyond healthy, you're lean, and you're trying to take it to this like very high elite level of body composition, or even just fueling for performance, that's when that stuff matters. But anything before then of like, I'm just trying to be healthy, you don't need that tool. Some people like numbers. And so they're like, I just operate better. I put it in my spreadsheet and I understand it. Like I have some of those clients, but most of the time it's like, you're just balancing out. You can go down this road, but understand, I want to try and off ramp you into something more sustainable. Let's talk about sleep.
The best.
It is the best when you get it, right? The best. So sleep, you guys, like I think you had pointed out, when we were talking about like the hierarchy of like, man, if you could just master this, the cascading effect it has and everything else that is in your life. Sleep, you guys, I know a lot of us we live in this culture here in America where it's like, hey, I only slept for 4 hours because I'm going to get out and conquer the world, right? Excuse me. Completely wrong mentality to have. You know what it's like to operate on 4 hours of sleep consistently. Yeah. It's just not sustainable, right?
It's not.
So sleep. What ideas come to mind, Chris, when you talk to clients about sleep? Where are the bottlenecks most of the time around sleep with clients?
Well, I feel like the first bottleneck is kind of in a nutrition consult where it's like we're looking at all these pillars of health. It's like, how many hours of sleep are you getting? It's like, okay, well, Chris, I go to sleep at 10 p.m. and I wake up at 6 a.m. So I'm getting about 8 hours of sleep. And just right off the bat, because everybody's so tech driven now with their fitness too, just look, Whoop is very good at this. And this is not an advertisement for Whoop because I'm just like, get rid of all the tech, don't need it anymore. But when you look at the data off of Whoop, you're basically losing an hour immediately because of the time it takes for you to fall asleep and the time that precedes wake up, and then any other subsequent times that you wake up to go to the bathroom. And most people, I think, average like 2 to 3 times going to the bathroom at night, I think. Again, anecdotal, but that's a big bottleneck, is just not accurately assuming your sleep. Number 2, I would like a actual study to like reference for this, but blue light is just the worst thing ever, because whether you're looking at your phone or watching TV, like I'll be looking at my phone or whatever, like watching a YouTube video, and then I'll go to bed and I'll close my eyes and I'll literally feel like I'm buzzing. Like I just took a drag off a cigarette, and like remembering years ago what that feels like, the nicotine rush. That's what it literally feels like. You're just like adrenalized almost. And that's just going to keep you awake. Obviously stress is going to keep you awake. So it's, there's ways to go about it. But I would say the first thing is like, keep your room as dark as humanly possible and keep it as cool as possible. And those 2 things will be super beneficial. And kind of goes without saying, like the phone just has to go either nightstand or go into that like do not disturb bedtime mode where it goes into black and white.
Yeah. And when I coach clients through sleep, we usually fall into 2 camps. You're either, I have a tough time falling asleep, or I have a tough time staying asleep. And there are those unicorns where it's like both, right? Yeah. What I've noticed about falling asleep, I have a tough time getting to sleep, falling asleep. I call it kind of like your nighttime routine. Like to your point, what does winding down look like for you? Because we live in a day and age of like, you could set up an environment, an artificial environment that pretty much replicates sunlight or being activated all the time, whether that's looking at a screen or just having certain lights in your house or whatever it is. And so your brain is constantly thinking, right? Like our basic brain is constantly thinking the sun is out, we need to be active. And just setting up your environment correctly can slowly start to like, okay, it's time to go to sleep. The lights are getting darker. I'm getting away from screens. Or getting like that stimulation, right? That constant stimulation you're trying to turn off. Like that's the big one I see. Did I miss anything? Do you think like?
No, I think that's super important. Like setting a kind of nighttime routine, and I think you hit on all.
Dimming the lights.
Yeah, dim the lights.
Blue light blocker glasses. So if you need to be on screens, I could put your screens away, or they have blue light blocker glasses you can use at night. Like to your point, like kind of cooling the room. I notice for myself, I need to like, I live in my head a lot. Like I'm thinking a lot. So for me, just taking that and literally physically writing it down in a book, just to like literally, if you guys want to think about this, like take all of that stress or thoughts and you're just putting it in this box so that you can go to sleep and you can walk away from it. It sounds stupid, but it works really, really well for me.
I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to from now on call this Tommy's Dream Journal. Is you're listing out all your business goals and everything that we're trying to do for District H. But I imagine it's very powerful. I still have not tried it yet. I feel like I do a good job of compartmentalizing. I mean, like I'm putting this away, but for people that you're probably a little bit more elevated in terms of like just having a lot more ideas. So I imagine like just so you don't forget things too, because very easily with kids thinking about like what tomorrow holds or the next week holds or the next month, it's important just write down like, oh, I need to do this.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have staying asleep, and that's where we can get into. We'll get into supplementation interventions, like things where it's like, okay, we can start to experiment with this. There may legitimately be a nutrient deficiency that's preventing you from staying into deep sleep. I notice it usually falls into 3 categories. You brought up using the restroom. So like trying not to drink a gallon of water like an hour before bed, right? Or anything really for that matter.
75 hard, Tommy. You have to drink that gallon of water before.
So trying to like, if you notice you're going to the bathroom a lot throughout the night, just kind of monitoring your water. The other thing is like nutrient deficiency. So looking into magnesium and zinc and things where it's like, okay, you may legitimately need these things to help you stay asleep because your body doesn't have enough of it. Does what other like sleep aids have come to mind for you where it's like outside of zinc, magnesium?
The hands down, zinc, magnesium, melatonin. More importantly, delayed release melatonin, because melatonin just kind of gives you that oomph right away, but delayed will keep you in that sleep rhythm. And not a advertisement either, but Gorilla Dream, when it's in stock, is hands down the best sleep supplementation. And this was after I was getting good, developing good sleep habits. I started taking that, and it just puts you down into a very deep, restful sleep.
The last thing I want to mention is the last camp that it typically falls into of like waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to go back to sleep. Whenever I talk to clients about it, I'm like, do you notice if there's a consistent thought or story that's going on in the head when you wake up? And you'd be surprised how many people are like, yeah, I'm processing a loss of a loved one, stress at a job. And that's where we can look into decompression strategies to say, okay, we got to do something with that story in your head. If that means, if it's something deep, like addressing the loss of a loved one and you're still emotionally processing that, we do have strategies that I can recommend, but it may be beneficial to go seek the help of an actual therapist, right? If it's as simple as like, I just wake up and I start thinking about work immediately, we can start talking about kind of like my strategy of like, okay, like take your top 10 stressors that you're dealing with and let's write them down somewhere. So you've just put them somewhere, and really just thinking about not only put them somewhere, but 3 small action items you can implement the first thing you wake up. So you already know like, hey, I'm aware of the stress and I've developed a plan to be able to address it as soon as I get to them the next day. Another strategy that you can use, right? Anything else you want to talk about before we move on to stress?
No, get more sleep.
Get more sleep, yes.
Get more sleep.
Don't live this like I need to sleep 4 hours so that I can go conquer the world. Like you will conquer the world so much better if you get 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I just remembered this is it's sleep debt. So let's just say that you do have a couple stressful days and you're not able to get as much sleep. Let's just say you like stack 4. If you get like 10, 12 hours of sleep on one of those, it kind of helps, but it's not as good as getting consistent nightly sleep.
Let's talk about stress. This is a big one. especially with our population, they got a lot to stress about, right? These are people in their career where I always talk about, like at our gym, it's like, okay, we've moved beyond only having to care about ourselves. So we got jobs, we got kids, we got stuff, right? I have yet to meet someone in our gym where I'm like, yeah, we're all dealing with it, right? So stress, when it comes to thinking about stress and the bottlenecks that can come from stress, usually comes from three things. Anticipation. So like, just like you have a tough time, you're very anxious. You're just, you know, like you're constantly looking for threats and it's out there and you're just constantly on edge, right? Mm-hmm. There's the actual experience of stress, going through it, and being able to kind of manage that as you're working through it. And then obviously on the other end, there's the decompression side of it. Now, you've been in the military and you've worked in high stressful environments. When it comes to anticipation of a stressful event happening, you can't always be on. You can't always just be like, where are the threats? Where are the threats? You're going to stress yourself out. Mm-hmm. So like, what were some of the things you did in the military where you're like, okay, I know something extreme is going to happen down the road. This is how I manage that.
So this is a really good question. But one of the first things when I got this thing called an FMF pin, Fleet Marine Force pin, the first chapter was about operational risk management. And one of the things that have stuck with me over the years is that war is an inherently risky endeavor. Like you're going to have loss, whether it's life or equipment, whatever. And you just have to accept that that's going to happen. So just kind of accepting that something is going to be out of your control. That's number one. Second is training. And with life, there's only so much training for like a loss of a loved one, or, you know, are you going to be in this round of layoffs? Like that is kind of out of your control, but in your control in a way where it's like, is your work product good? And even then, sometimes your work product could be like 10 out of 10 and you still might get laid off. It's just, you have to be okay. And super great advice, Chris, but you have to just be okay that something will be out of your control and have contingencies in place. I like to have contingencies so that if something happens, then I'm like, okay, this is my fallback.
Yeah.
But otherwise we're like just steamrolling through a wall. And then if something happens and I can't punch through, then we just fall back.
So for what I heard from that is like, hey, like you can actually run through a couple different scenarios in your head, like to your point, simulations of like, okay, think about like the three worst things that could happen right now. Like, not to say like, let's live in this like crazy dark world, but if you ran through that and then you ask the question of what's the worst thing that can happen? And then will I be okay? I think just working through that thought process, people like, they just kind of bring that down a little bit. And to your point, acknowledge that you can only control what you can control. So I use this exercise going through like the spheres of control of like, okay, what's this thing that's stressing you out? How much control do you have over that? Well, I have 0. Okay, well, with this situation, what are some things you have control over? What do I have full control over? And what most people fall on is I'm in full control of me and that's about it. Mm-hmm. So I have to be willing to let go of the things that aren't in my control. But like saying that out loud and going through the exercise, sometimes it just allows the brain to process anticipating stress. Let's talk about dealing with stress. So we're in the middle of it, right? And it's a very stressful event. You know, like this is where I think about breathing exercises. This is where I think about like, I don't know, like, again, you've been in highly stressful environments. What were some of the things that you used to manage like, okay, I know I'm in it right now. How do I bring that, you know, that nervous system more, how do I make it a little bit more calm so I can stay focused?
Another really good question. I like kind of the nasal breathing, like a deep, like literally take a breath. Like you always have a moment to take a breath, look around, make a decision. Any decision is better than no decision. If you're just stuck in like, I think it's called the OODA loop, which is like observe, orient, decide, act, something of that nature. And if you're just stuck in the observe state and you're not doing anything, you're just like frozen in that anticipation, frozen in that stressful moment. And it's just any decision I think is better than no decision. At least you're now acting versus like still waiting to react.
And if you guys are very much like Chris was talking about fight, flight, or freeze, if you guys naturally are inclined to say, like, okay, I'm in it, I can fight, or I'm gonna flee, or to your point, the worst one is I'm gonna freeze in here. This can be trained as well, right? So like if you're struggling with this of like, I just can't handle high bouts of stress, you can talk to us and let us know, and we can practice on, hey, here's some mental exercises, breathing mechanics when you're in stressful environments. Like when we got a 6-minute echo bike, let's talk about it, right? Like what are the things in the gym where you think like this would be appropriate to maybe practice or implement some of this stuff?
I think Echo Bike is probably like top tier because it's just like everybody hates it. I think Christy Kyle and Anker are the two people that actually really love and are like excited to go on the Echo
They're
Bike.
sick people.
Yeah.
It's like,
But that, and then doing like not today's workout in an aspect is something that can be stressful because it's 10 minutes of two very low rep movements. So you're like 2 rounds in and you're like, look at the clock and you're 90 seconds and you have 8.5 more minutes to go.
Yeah.
That can be very stressful. And it's like, breathe through the double unders. And that's what I was telling people. It's like, breathe through the double unders, find somewhere where you can take a breath, trying to like catch your breath and do a controlled breathing pattern on a burpee just is not going to happen. So you have to find your moments to like, okay, I'm going to take that one to breathe. I'm going to take that one to like, chill out.
What about mantras? Like, you're in the thick of something like, for me, the one I would always resort to in really high stressful, whether it's a workout or situation, is just going back to a simple mantra like, everything's okay. Everything's okay. Like, keep moving. Everything's fine. Right.
Yeah.
I heard you today when you were finishing up your class, like, guys, this much time left. Keep moving. Keep breathing. Like, you're giving people cues and mantras to say, it's all going to be fine. You're going to get to the other side of this. Yeah.
Well, this is kind of a very cool topic because with those last like 90 seconds, 2 minutes, or even like halfway through 5 minutes ago, I'll see them like grab their water, whatever. It's like, you will survive without water for 10 minutes.
Correct.
And just taking that away can really stress people out. It's like, oh, I need a sip. I need to get rid of the cotton mouth. No, get rid of the cotton mouth before you start because it's been there. Not a good time. You need that out of the way. But having somebody that is telling you what to do and then you trying to implement that, and that's kind of hard. So, not necessarily hard, but it's not, I would like to be more consistent with getting people on that page where it's like they are now doing that self-coaching because whether I'm not coaching a class or I'm away or whatever, I can't always be around to hold your hand or tell you what to do. So it's teaching yourself. Like you and I, we like to self-teach and we like to have people teach us things. And those are how we have learned about affirmations or self-encouragement or whatever you want to call it to like get you through those things.
Yeah. The last part of this is the decompressive part. And I think actually this is the one where we have to be careful with certain vices, including fitness, that we use to decompress, or like what Kelsey was talking about, you use it to escape. Life is hard, you guys. Like, I acknowledge that. And I think sometimes we can resort to things in a way to try to help us process a lot of the stress and hardship that we're experiencing in life. But certain vices like exercising too much is a thing. Like, you're just trying to escape reality of like, hey, I'm just going to like be in this place where I can like suffer because the real world is hard to face sometimes. And I'm not trying to demoralize it. That's just the reality of it. With decompression, Chris, like I've noticed the simple things, like I would say, let's call it like the less harmful things, like snacking, junk food, ice cream, kind of like the comfort foods. Like I'm not saying you're eating your feelings, but that's one way of thinking about it. A little bit more serious, we get into alcohol. You'd be surprised. Like I'll talk to people, I'm like, so tell me like a week of drinking, what does that look like? And they'll be like, yeah, I do like 4 drinks every night. And I'm like, that's a functioning alcoholic, and I don't say that to them, but like you can imagine where it's like, and it's not like you're trying to do anything bad. It's a way of self-soothing because we all have very stressful lives. It's just a way for you to like manage that stress.
Yeah.
Obviously we want to present, beyond that, there's hard drugs and like more serious stuff, but like we want to present solutions to help with decompression. How do you, like hard days work, you commuted 2 hours to work and back. You got a kid. There's a lot going on. You're a busy guy. Like, how do you decompress?
Someone asked me this question the other day, and on my hour drive home, I just screamed the entire time.
Just white knuckling it. Yeah.
No, I and Alyssa knows this, and I think my sisters-in-law know this about my brothers. And one of my sisters-in-law, Olivia, she said, "You Diomede boys love your alone time," and I just like to be alone with my thoughts and just kind of like process everything. And some people just don't want to be alone with their thoughts. And like, I think it's super important to be alone with yourself, and whether it's find the void or like just conversate with yourself in your head or out loud or however you want to talk. It's just like, why is this bothering me? Why is this a problem? What can I do about it? Is this something that is, as you mentioned before, in my control, out of my control? And that's kind of what I will go through. It's like, I'll be listening to an audiobook, and if anybody was in the car with me while I'm listening, I keep rewinding because I'm having these like thoughts and conversations, and I'm like, I completely missed like the last 5 minutes of this book, and I'll just keep rewinding and because I like having the background noise, but it's just like, be with yourself, be good, happy with yourself. When I was doing Katie's running program last year, I don't like to run with music. I just find it very distracting. I always feel like the earbuds are going to fall off or whatever. And those are some of the most like just pleasant by yourself. It's like literally you and the road, the free sky over your head, and just find something where you can like empty your cup.
Yeah.
And that's like how I like to decompress.
Yeah. Emptying your cup, like kind of going back to what I was talking about with, I like to write it down in a book. Like that's me emptying my cup, because it sounds like you like the physical side of emptying your cup, whereas me, it's all mental. It's all, and we're all different, right? So it's just like finding that thing that works for you to say, okay, cool, like I'm good now, right? Yeah. So decompression strategies, you guys, like, it is a learned trait to kind of turn off stimulation and just sit with, what are you feeling? And you'd be surprised how scary that endeavor can be for some people. Kind of like what Kelsey was saying, like when she had kind of experienced that, it can be a very scary thing because you're afraid of what's actually going to come up and how you got to deal with that. Why am I so upset all the time? Why am I angry all the time? Why am I stressed out all the time? Processing that story and being like, you know what? Like, I'm kind of afraid of what's going to come out the other side, right? I'm not who I thought I was. I'm not happy in my job. I'm not happy in my marriage. These things need to get solved. Like sitting in that is scary.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give? Not to say like you and I are here to be life coaches, but like I think what we're acknowledging is like that's just part of the human experience. How do you deal with that?
I think, oh man, that's so just tough because everybody's different. It's kind of like nutrition, as we were talking about earlier. Everybody's different. Everybody copes, manages their stress in their life differently. And I guess the different types of advice would be, if you have a very trusted partner, wife, for me, in my case, wife, I can talk with her about it, or I'll talk with my dad/mom. Those three people are probably the three outside of like my brothers that I can talk with about pretty much anything about. And then if you don't have those trusted people in your life, go seek outside help using a therapist, or trusted friend, something of that nature. Just someone that, because trust is the most intimate thing that is shared between people. And if you can't unload those feelings with somebody and know that those feelings won't be weaponized against you, that's a major problem.
Which is a great segue into like the next pillar of health, which I think for some people, they might be surprised to hear this, but maybe not, because our gym is very community driven, is social interaction, man. Like, this one was probably the last one for me to really kind of embrace, because as I've gotten older, my circle has gotten a little bit smaller, but I think it's not from me not liking to hang around people. I think it's just with busy in life, you just like, hey, I got my 5 people. We're cool. But like social interactions, having, not only surrounding yourself with people that elevate you, can hold you accountable, can help be there for you when you are working through some of those tougher moments, and really thinking about like, what's the quote? Like you are like the 5 most closest people to you.
Yeah.
Like, what's the quote?
Oh my gosh. I literally can't remember.
You guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Like you're most similar to the 5 people you hang out with the most. Something like that.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
So like the question I have for everyone is, who are you surrounding yourself with? Like who are you and where are you trying to work towards? And have you created the support system or community that supports that vision of yourself? How did you manage that in the military? Because I feel like the military is probably one of the most diverse places in the world. So like, how do you elevate yourself, Chris, and surround yourself with people that make you better?
Well, I take a lot of accountability in like retrospect of things. Like everybody's like, oh, I live with no regrets. It's like, I'm sure everybody can list at least 5 regrets, major regrets,
correct,
that they have in their life. And there's a handful from being in the military. And so you have to surround yourself with like-minded people. It's so important. And whether it's like-minded in like you like fitness or whatever, and you can have like different circles, maybe those 5 people, it's like, I hang around Tommy because I can bounce business ideas off him and he has that mind for it. And I go to Kelsey and she's one of my other 5 people, but she's like helping me on the kind of holistic health side of things.
Yeah.
And I go to Dustin for like the very, I guess we'll call it like Western educated side of things with also some Eastern touches in there.
With some funny memes via Instagram.
Yeah, and some funny memes. But I think that's just a very niche thing where it's like you want to be better at certain things, so you might want to have multiple circles, but having people that make you want to be better, that challenge you, it doesn't have to always be competitive, like Kelsey said in the last podcast, but it is good to have some sort of friendly competition, whether that's like shit talking or whatever it is, so that you know that you're like not alone, and then that you can like attack something together.
Yeah, I think as humans, right, like our evolution, we have evolved to be a part of a tribe. We build our identity and understanding of the world based on how we exist in the world, and that comes across from like me interacting with you and other people. It's like that's how I dictate who I am, is like bouncing it off. I can't just sit in my room alone and be like, I'm not in the world. This is how I exist. I think you get context out of social interactions with people. At our gym, like I've had a back and forth relationship with this idea of community, because I love the community that we've built at District H. I think in the past we've gotten to an unhealthy aspect of it, of like that became the focus versus what we're here to do as an organization, right? It's like, hey, fitness and health and wellness first. And with that culture, if we have great community, I love that, but not lead with this like, okay, guys, like forget the primary reason. Let's just be amazing friends and like just grab ass all the time. You know what I mean? But like, why do you think community is so important to the people at our gym?
I think it's another really good question, because I've only lived in Texas for, I don't know, like just under 2 years, and I haven't even lived in the Houston/Heights area ever. So it's a little bit different for me, because I have like kind of just a boundary set, just physically, like I'm not around as much. But I think people are just like, I call it like the five, or at least the 3 jobs of District H, which is lawyers, medical professionals, and engineers. And because those people have so many things in common, they are now using fitness to kind of like talk about their stress or go through life and like challenge themselves outside of just like, I'm, traveling again for this XYZ thing. I wish I could expand a little bit more on it, but I just feel like I'm not like really like in the community necessarily as much as I would like to be.
I think the point you're hitting on is like really the hour that people have in the gym really is their social interaction outside of work. Because like when you're at work, it's funny how like when you go out with people from work, you want to talk about work, right? I don't know why that is, because that's how you've connected that relationship. But it's nice just to be able to go somewhere and be like, nothing about what I did for the last 8 to 9 hours, and we could talk about anything, and it doesn't matter. We're just going to lift some weights, have some fun, just have a good time, right? Yeah. So things you guys can do to maybe start asking questions, right? If you feel isolated, if you feel like the breadth of your relationships aren't deep enough, if you feel like you're just not making enough touch points, really simple, easy strategies you can do. I try to spend 5 minutes daily just reaching out to people I know mean a lot to me. It doesn't have to be just text message, phone call, FaceTime, like whatever. Small things like that. It's amazing how just a few of those, and you can start building momentum into like, hey, like I'm connected. I have a tribe around me that can support me. Last pillar before we wrap this up, mindset or psychology. This one is my favorite. If I think about the biggest lever that prevents people from either succeeding or struggling inside of District H or even life in general, it really comes down to the story between the ears. I always talk about that. It could either berate you for the rest of your life and make you feel insufficient for the rest of your life, or you could be your biggest support system and allow you to go do wonderful things in this world. How do you handle mindset for yourself? Are you a harsh critic? Are you a nice support system? Like, or is it a balance? Like, what is it for you?
I think I'm kind of like stoically pragmatic, where it's just, I know it's like, this is something my dad says is like, do what's required of you. And it's like, that's kind of how it's like, this is required of me. I throw in a little bit of arrogance to keep my ego like somewhat elevated. So I'm not just like, I'm, like the worst thing ever. because like everybody's their own worst critic. And I just used to be like that so often that I refuse to go down that, because it just puts you in such this like negative feedback loop where you're like, I am the worst. I am the worst. And it just becomes your identity. And I'm not quite at little engine that could positivity, but I just think it's like a pragmatism of like, we just have to, like, this is the step where we have to maybe move a little closer, or we have to get this workout done because this is the only time, or I need to do my active life because like the last 5 days have just, it's just, you do what you need to do because otherwise it's just looming over you in this like this shadow that's just like, hey, I'm here and you're failing.
So guys, a couple things that you could do to think about mindset. Best advice I ever got is if you're really struggling with whether it's like you can't get out of this loop of a certain story going on about work, life, workouts, whatever, just writing it down and observing the words that you wrote down. Mark England from Enlifted, incredible individual. I had the pleasure of working with him for close to a year, but he really taught me about this process of like, hey, our language dictates a lot about how we feel. And you'd be surprised how when we write down our thoughts on a piece of paper and you examine it, you're like, well, wait a minute, that's not necessarily true. I'm kind of lying to myself a little bit about like how I actually feel about the thing. And it's amazing how writing it down, observing it, starting to manipulate the words a little bit can really go a long way in how it makes you feel. And then all of a sudden it opens up different opportunities for you, right? So I've worked with clients in the past where we've gotten to the bottom of stories that were really holding them back to take action in their life when it comes to health. Why can't I nourish myself? Why can't I make it to class? Why can't I find the time for better sleep? All that stuff. And we dial it back to these stories that have pretty much been haunting them and berating them for like years. Sometimes you'd be surprised how deep some people go. And again, not a mental health expert here. It's more of just like, hey, there's these small things that you can do to really kind of pick up momentum. And then we do have great partnerships with businesses in the Heights that like, if you do need a referral for mental health, there's a lot of great experts out there that we can kind of reference to. We've kind of built that network. Anything else you wanted to add into the 6 pillars before we wrap it up?
No, I think we nailed it.
Awesome, you guys. So that wraps up this episode. We'll see you next time. See ya.